Is there anyone present who's planning to record? Hi, Alana. All right. This is a time for, Barbara Skaar has asked to make a statement before we get into public input. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm honored to serve our community. I take my responsibilities seriously. I am prepared, respectful, and attentive in every meeting. I rarely miss a meeting or a liaison assignment. I attend as many events as I can at schools across the district, and I respond to every person who contacts me, every single one. I represent residents without children, parents, school staff, students, every single one. It is why I ran for office. I have proudly volunteered in our town for 30 years. 30 years. I interned in the town manager's office when I was in law school, organizing legal files. I wrote the original sexual harassment policy for the town of Chelmsford. I served on the first ambulance study committee that resulted in all of our firefighters becoming EMT certified. I remember feeling so proud of our firefighters when they responded to our recommendations in such a proactive and positive way. I served on the finance committee for 4 years, 2 as chair. I have served as president of Center School, McCarthy Middle School, and Chelmsford High School PTO boards, and the Council of Chelmsford Schools. I am so thankful for every opportunity I have been given. I want to provide some background on this matter. This is about public records. The intent of the Public Records Law is not to expose the communications between elected officials and constituents. It is to hold elected officials accountable if open meeting laws are violated. This is not the case here. There are no accusations of open meeting law violations. My emails were reviewed, and the ones considered most damaging were posted to discredit me. I can guarantee you, these are not all of my emails. Not by a long shot. There were less public options if there were suspicions I had violated a law or a policy. These records could have been obtained through a regular records request. I have made many records requests over the years. A FOIA request is a whole different ballgame. It requires that the information be publicly posted. Think about that. Think about the controversies our school committee has been involved with in the past few years. Think of the damage that could have been done. This was done to do damage. This is political, this is personal. We have all witnessed these attacks on full display on TV and in the paper. I'm sorry that people are upset by the things I have written. I guarantee you, others have written worse. The difference is they weren't posted on the internet. Mostly I'm sorry about the rights that were violated in the rush to post my emails. In any other setting, the failure to redact such sensitive information would result in immediate termination of the responsible party. I have repeatedly been criticized for being pro-teacher, pro-union. My first job was at the National Right to Work Committee. I understand both sides of the union arguments very well. Besides, who runs for school committee and is not pro-teacher? I believe strongly that the contracts bargained are the rules of the game. If either side violates the terms of the contract, there are remedies available and should be pursued. The contracts are not knee-jerk reactionary agreements. They are negotiated over many months. In the case of the last contract, 16 months. If the contract is violated, I expect action to be taken. Both sides work tirelessly to come to an agreement. Play by the rules. Don't attempt to circumvent it. Honor the agreed-upon terms of the contract. Last week, a letter signed by our chairman was delivered to my house by a constable, requiring my presence at an executive session. The applicable law, Mass General Laws 30A, Section 21A1, was copied and pasted into the letter. Every word of the statute, except for the last sentence. This very important sentence allows the subject of an executive session to choose to hold the meeting in open session. I responded, opting for open session. If there are accusations against me, let's hear them in the open. Please know, no matter the political objective of this meeting, this board cannot remove me from my position. They do not have that authority. So the intent of this meeting is to embarrass me, to publicly humiliate me. I am not embarrassed. I stand by every communication in these stacks. You may not like what I say or who I say it to, but I have every right to do so. This is America. Finally, I ask all of you to please be respectful tonight. Do not allow the meeting to be shut down. Allow the speakers to be heard. 3 minutes isn't a lot of time, so please respect each person's right to speak. Back in my sorority days, we used to snap our fingers to show support. Consider that. But no negative outbursts, please. Your silence speaks volumes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, this is the period for public input. When you come up to speak, would you please give your name and address for the secretary? And we'd like to stay within a half hour if we can, but we'll, you can have your 3 minutes and we'll go on. So, someone like to address us right now?
Sorry, there's something like a cell phone?
Yes.
No, it's a speaker up here. Okay, it sounds like a cartoon on it. Yeah.
Can we turn it off?
Very distracting.
What is it? What is it?
There's some noise.
Oh, I didn't hear it,
Cartoon
sorry.
noises coming from the speaker.
Like a Disney Channel, something going.
I could hear it and I couldn't
Yeah.
hear where it was
I
coming.
kept hearing it. I thought it was
I
a
didn't-
cell phone or.
Must be in the range that I don't hear.
That speaker.
The new one?
It's not a motion.
No, no. Sounds like it's off now, but I don't think it's
Try to work on it. I honestly don't know what it is.
Is it still on? You still
Yeah,
here?
the camera's fine at home. I don't know
I
what
know.
the feedback in the room is.
Is the noise, it's okay? Thank you. Okay, sir?
Hi, my name is Brad Rigby, 38 Chestnut Hill Road, Chelmsford. I can't say that I know Barbara Skaar well, but I supported her when she ran for school committee, at first unsuccessfully. But I've observed her actions on the school committee ever since. When I saw the Sun's article about this school committee session to investigate Barbara's emails as published by the request of another committee member, I found it disturbing. And I will say I found the Sun's cited emails, or cited examples of these emails, rather muddled and confusing to follow, which prompted me to read through the entire published collection of messages, all 1,000+ pages of them, including all the duplicated parts from the repeated threads. My overwhelming reaction to what I read in the emails was, really? This is what's being presented as evidence of unethical communications and alleged collusion with the teachers' union? Surely they have to be kidding. But nothing that I read in those hundreds and hundreds of copied pages of emails suggested to me that Barbara was doing anything other than working in the interest of the Chelmsford schools, most particularly including advocating for the needs of the students in the schools. There was actually one instance where she admitted to making a surreptitious effort on behalf of the union, and that was when she was spotted delivering some holiday food treats to the teachers. Other than that, I could not see anything that seemed to me like collusion with the teachers' union. There have been numerous instances that we in the public have seen of behavior at school committee meetings by nominally grown-up participants that I think have been deeply embarrassing to many in the community. I would like to think that you also find these embarrassing as a group. To be clear, while I think that the work that good teachers do is incredibly undervalued, I don't discount this, I don't discount in this affair the role that even the union members and leadership have sometimes played by assuming ill will and ill intent by administration. But I think there have been unfortunate actions and words demonstrated all around with little or no inclination to acknowledge these. But I've never felt that I or our town need to feel embarrassment over what I've seen and heard of Barbara's actions or words on the school committee, where she has spoken frankly but always respectfully as she voices the things that need saying, but not everyone is willing to say or listen to, often delivered with a touch of humor to take the edge off difficult topics. I very much applaud Barbara's choice to request this discussion be conducted in public, ensuring that everyone is fully on the record with what they say and do. I can't at this point say the same for all the rest of the committee, staff, or even some members of the public, but I think it's clear that I'm not alone in being very interested in what you do with this tonight and going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Someone else?
Hi, my name is Carly Connereem, 9 Montcastle Drive, Chelmsford. I wanted to come here tonight to show my support for Barbara. I've known Barbara since my son, who's now 20, was in kindergarten. She was one of the first people I met on the PTO, and she's been a constant for me. My son had a great experience in Chelmsford schools, thanks to the teachers and the folks who volunteer on the school committee. And that's my point. This is a volunteer position. People put in a lot of hours. It's not an easy job. I appreciate it. What I don't appreciate is this, what's going on right now. You guys are here to support us, the parents, the students, the teachers, collectively. And the optics are really bad. Right now, this is infighting. This is not healthy. This doesn't benefit the teachers or the students. I would like to see more advocacy for the teachers and the students, as Barbara's displayed, less infighting. This is a community. You're discouraging other people from wanting to volunteer, and that's a shame. And that's really all I have to say.
Someone else?
John Salmon, 3 Marinelle Ave.
Bill Arrington, 38 Levitt Lane.
The community has heard a lot about the emails from this FOIA request submitted by school committee member Moses. The word collusion has come up in these discussions. With that in mind, I want to share some pertinent information regarding those FOIA requests. On February 6, 2018, Mr. Moses submitted the above-mentioned FOIA request. The request was filled on February 14th, 2018. Remember those dates, is there what my statement is all about. If someone were to pull up this FOIA request and read the dates at the top of Mr. Moses' FOIA request, they would read December 19th, 2017. This was the date these emails were first pulled from the system. The metadata shows these FOIA requests were officially created on December 29th, 2017 by Dr. Lang's Director of Technology, Mr. William Silver. As a point of reference, a FOIA request was made by me on December 15th, 2017. It was filled on December 29th, 2017. The metadata shows my FOIA requests were officially created on December 20th, 2017, after my FOIA request was submitted. My question to this committee and Dr. Lang is, why were these emails pulled on December 19th, 2017 at 2:25 p.m., 49 days before the FOIA request was even submitted by Mr. Moses? So some of you may not know what metadata is, so Mr. Arrington here is going to talk a little bit about it.
So metadata is an actual digital footprint of a file. It gives you information about that file, who created that file, who modified that file. It sometimes can tell you what operating system that file was made on, all that sort of stuff. So when you look at the metadata that's on that file that John made reference to, The file is created at 12/29/2017 on a Mac OS 10 by William Silver. So how did William Silver know that he needed to pull this information 49 days before the request is actually made? That, to me, is collusion.
And how did Mr. Moses know that these exact emails were pulled on December 19th and December 29th the file was created? How did he know how to access those? If this information was already created, why was that what was submitted to Mr. Moses as a FOIA request 49 days later? We're sitting up here talking about collusion among school committee members, but yet we clearly have a trail of people going behind the scenes trying to get information. So who asked for that information? Who requested that information be pulled on December 19th? Do we have an answer for that? Why was it pulled 49 days before Mr. Moses requested? Anyone have an answer for that?
I don't respond now, I'll respond at the end.
Respectfully, this is not a question and answer.
Okay.
Ben,
All right.
That's 3 minutes out.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Super-
That's fine. I mean, I think the community, we're making accusations of collusion. I
He's-
think the community deserves an answer to what clearly
I would be
shows that.
And I would be happy to respond, but I would rather just respond all at once at the end of all the speakers.
That is
So I'll
fine.
be happy to respond to that.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Christina Walsh, 17 Old Farm Way. Forgive me, I didn't prepare remarks because I didn't plan on coming up to speak, so hopefully I won't ramble. But I just wanted to come up and share my perspective, as I used to be a school committee member, so I understand what the responsibilities of a school committee member is. And I mean, I've known Barbara for a long time, and I know what a fierce advocate she is for the students, for parents, for everyone in the community. But I do want to say there were some things, I did read all 1,000 emails as well, and there were some things that kind of troubled me in that they weren't things that, as a school committee member, that you should be doing. And I think that that's what this meeting is about. It's about whether, how the emails came about. I don't know, but I think that now that they're out there, that these things need to be addressed. I think, talking about, there were a few times where Mr. Lang basically said this is not part of your responsibility, and so there were numerous times where that happened in the emails. And I mean, I know, because I've been there, it's really easy because you're really advocating and you're trying to help to kind of cross that boundary of what a school committee member is supposed to do. So I just wanted to share that because I think a lot of people in the community don't really understand that when you become a school committee member, you're in a role that's very different than PTO president, all of the advocacy roles for children. And it's important that that role be followed because it's part of the law. So I just wanted to bring that up because I really feel like, and I'm not saying I think Barbara should step down. I just hope that maybe you would acknowledge that some of the things that you did do might have crossed the line, even if you had not intentionally planned on that, but at least acknowledge that. So
Appreciate you making the statement. I have a right to say anything I want to anyone I want to say it to, and I stand by that.
okay.
I've consulted with a number of attorneys on this. I'm pretty clear on it.
Okay.
We chose different paths.
Yeah, we should move on.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Someone else?
Shayna Mickle, 8 Lady Slipper Lane. First, I'd just like to say that I fully respect all of you for doing this. I mean, I think public service at times is definitely a thankless job. However, I am sitting in front of you today because I am speaking in support of Barbara. I don't know Barbara very well. I met her a few years ago at a visioning session for the high schools that my husband and I both attended. I was so impressed by her enthusiasm, her passion, her commitment to this community when, quite frankly, she doesn't have any skin in the game. So what difference does it make? And as a parent of 3 children, I have 1 in kindergarten and 2 behind that child that are about to go through the school system. And to me, I find this extremely disturbing. I've kind of been watching from the outsides at this point and trying to kind of keep my cool about things. And to me, this seems extremely retaliatory. This seems like a little bit of a witch hunt. And for the school committee here, we have bigger fish to fry than this. Like the fact that you walk into the high school and it's an embarrassment what this building looks like. And I am not from Chelmsford. So I think that she has been shown complete disrespect, and I think other people have mentioned that Barbara always conducts herself in a pretty respectful manner. She's been shown disrespect, and I think this is a distraction. I think it's a deflection away from things that have happened in the past, where, you know, Barbara questioned the fairness maybe of some of the raises that were supposedly given to principals and things like that, and fingers were pointed at her. She was called a coward. I don't see how anyone could be called a coward when they are standing up for the teachers and the students in the community. Like, how do you run for a school committee and not stand behind the teachers who are for our kids in the community? That just blows my mind. So anyways, I just wanted to say that I am in full support of her and the work that she does. I think that she is completely committed to this community. She has no skin in the game. She has nothing to gain from this. And she is a selfless public servant who is really looking out for the best intentions of this community. And that's all I have seen from her ever. Thank you.
Someone else? Usually at this point, I ask to go on, and then somebody stands up, so that's why I'm waiting. Does everybody have their chance? All right, thank you very much for those that came up and spoke.
Can I just address?
Yes,
I'd like to-
please.
We typically don't do kind of a back and forth when these questions come up. Public comment is meant for people to be able to come to the mic and make a statement, and there's typically not a response. But I do want to respond because I don't want to leave this hanging. When people submit FOIA requests or they submit any kind of request for information, it can come in multiple fashions. So someone can call my office and request information, someone can send an email and request information, someone can go through the town FOIA site and request information. On this particular request, at some point back in December, prior to when that information request was pulled, Mr. Moses had actually sent that information request just via the regular email system. So we actually received an email with that request back in December, and that's why the information was pulled and the data was gathered at that point in time. Obviously, it was a voluminous amount of paper that took a significant amount of time to go through and redact, and at some point in time during January, Mr. Moses filed a formal request through the FOIA system, and that's why the dates don't align. But we actually responded in December to an email response, and that's why the record was pulled in December. Again, it was significant, and it didn't take until January until we actually fulfilled it, and when we fulfilled it, it was through the FOIA system. So I just want to let you know why that actually happened.
Okay,
Al, can I say something?
sure.
So, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. And there's a lot of passionate people in this audience. There's a lot of passionate people in this town. And what I'd like to say is this. You're right. Being a school committee member, it's a thankless job. It's a job that becomes very controversial. You know why? Because it's the most personal job out of all the jobs that sit in any community, because it deals with our kids. And nothing is more personal than our kids. So when we talk about some of the things that are said, I just ask you to understand this. This is not about supporting teachers. It's not about supporting the administration of what a school committee should do. A school committee member has two responsibilities, the children and the taxpayers. And when I came on this board 3 years ago, I came to this board, and I can promise you, you all remember this word, transparency. This town at that point had zero understanding of what was taking place. There was no transparency that the taxpayers felt. That's why there was such a change. There was actually a change in one of the most powerful positions in any town, which is the superintendent. We actually moved out the existing superintendent and brought another one in, and one of the chief reasons were transparency. So please understand that this is not a witch hunt, that this is not any school committee member taking advantage of another one. This is about our obligation to do what we promised, which was to tell you guys what's going on, and you make your own decision. Nobody is here, not myself, and I don't speak for anyone else, but I don't think anybody's here to ask for Barbara, that's in a thankless position, as we all are, to be removed. This is not about that. This is about transparency. This is about the taxpayers that don't have children in a school understanding who is doing what and when. Because it's not fair for us to come up here and have conversations that may have crossed the line and not share it with you. Who are we to do that? If we did that, you'd find yourself in the same situation as we found ourselves in 3 years ago when we were in the red over $1 million because nobody spoke up. So never once did any of these committee members ever say that we weren't for the teachers or we think the teachers are bad. We're here advocating for children. That means we want the best teachers. We're here advocating for the town. That means we want the best transparency. It's not a witch hunt. When this is all said and done, all we ask is this. We want to identify some things that you just can't do. They're just not good things to talk about. And when you're in this position that we're in, you have to respect certain boundaries that are policy. We want to identify that, and we want to move on from there. And just we want to say, hey, listen, in the future, can we all agree not to do that? Right now, there are things taking place in our system that is a little gray. It's clouded. I thought I was allowed to go into a school anytime I want to. That's not the case. You see, as a school committee member, if I want to go into a school, as a school committee member, especially in light of the tragedies, my responsibility is to call the superintendent, I then call the principal, I then wait for the principal to receive me at the school. That's a policy. Imagine if anybody at any time walked into a school without permission, including your school committee members. So all I'm doing is using that for an example to let you know this is only about identifying mistakes or being transparent to the town of Chelmsford so we don't make those mistakes again. Asking Barbara Skaar to step down, you won't hear me say that, but you will hear me say, you just can't do that kind of stuff in the future. Please, in the future, respect the rules. You're going to hear, and how this took place, you're going to hear from some former teachers, deans, principals, that wrote letters. So as a school committee member, we have to address those letters.
So, can you wrap it up?
Yes, we have to address those letters. So please give them the opportunity to speak their mind, because that's how this whole conversation started. Our deans and our teachers, former teachers, have something to say. We want to listen. And that's all I have to say. I apologize for being too long. I am too passionate, as we all are being on this board. And maybe that's sometimes the root of the problem, because sometimes that passion crosses over policy. Thank you.
We have another item of business to deal with tonight.
Thank you. We had listed actually first on the agenda this evening just one item of new business because of the way that the timing of the meetings fell. But we have our statement of interest that's due to the MSBA for the high school project on April 6th. So the school committee needs to vote to approve the statement of interest, and then it would go to the Board of Selectmen, I believe, on Monday night, because that'll be the last meeting before the submission on April 6th. So the second page of the vote, you actually have the verbiage that needs to be read. We do need to take a roll call vote on this. And this is basically to reintroduce the statement of interest application for Chelmsford High School, just updated from last year's version. If you don't mind, just to make it convenient, I'll read the vote for you, and then we'll just take a roll call vote. And I gave the secretary the language that we'll incorporate into the minutes, and we ultimately need to send that into the MSBA. So it would be a vote of the school committee that indicates, having convened in an open meeting on Wednesday, March 21st, 2018, prior to the closing date, the school committee of Chelmsford, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 21st, 2018 for Chelmsford High School, located at 200 Richardson Road, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future, including the elimination of existing severe overcrowding, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems, such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems, to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility, in replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town, city, regional school district to filing an application for funding with the Mass School Building Authority. So if we could have a vote, a second, and then a roll call, please.
So, Mr. Superintendent, in referencing the motion, could you please give me the words to
I just-
support it, other than I support what you said?
That was it. That's actually, so we just need a motion to approve that language.
I make a motion that we approve the language stated by Dr. J. Lang.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This is roll call vote. Any questions before we proceed? Dennis?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara.
Aye.
Unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, most of you are here for the agenda number 2. We're going to begin. We received letters from several of the administrators and from the Administrators Association, and I would like at this time to ask those that want to come forward and summarize what their letters addressed. If you'd also identify yourself for the record like the other people.
Hello, thank you. Steve Murray, principal of Chelmsford High School. So the letter I sent was 3 weeks ago. And the letter to the school committee I said was, I read the public emails that were recently released from the various FOIA requests. I'm very concerned about the correspondence between Barbara Skaar and the union president. There were instances in which school committee member was expressing concerns about both staff under my supervision as well as concerns about me. Those concerns were never brought to my attention by Ms. Skaar. Unfortunately, those concerns were discussed between Ms. Skaar and the union president as seen in those recently released emails. In addition, Ms. Skaar's school committee update at Chelmsford High School's PTO meeting on January 8th did not focus on the school committee's work. Ms. Skaar's primary focus is about the actions of another school committee member. This situation, in addition to Ms. Skaar's school committee report at the January 8th PTO meeting, caused me to question protocols, confidentiality, appropriate boundaries, and the scope of Ms. Skaar's position. And I was requesting a meeting with the school committee to talk about these concerns. And until we have this meeting, I was respectfully requesting that Ms. Skaar be reassigned from the school committee as a liaison to Chelmsford High School. I have always known the school committee and school committees that I've worked with to be supportive and be supportive in the manner in which they operate of all the stakeholders, with the primary focus being the success and the well-being of the students and the staff. This has been my experience for the last 20 years as an administrator. Reading the emails pertaining to me, my staff, and the school, it is clear to me that Ms. Skaar's actions were not constructive, but the end result, they were detrimental to relationships in the district. Her collusion with the union president on these issues do not appear to be within the scope of her position, and this is concerning at best. What troubles me even more is the fact that I would not have known about these issues had there not been a public records request, since those emails were dated 1.5 years ago. How do we move forward with confidence that issues will be addressed to the correct person at the correct time with full transparency? And how will administration's trust in Ms. Skaar be restored? If we want what's best for our kids and we want what's best for our town, then we have to be working together, collaboratively, open, and honestly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Parks. I am the principal at Parker Middle School. I live at 8 Pilgrim Road in Chelmsford. I also wrote a letter to the school committee sharing my concerns, and I'd like to share that again. I contacted you regarding the public emails that were released from the various FOIA requests. Several of the emails were brought to my attention as I was named directly in them. After reviewing the emails myself, I had concerns regarding Ms. Skaar's involvement in sensitive matters regarding Parker Middle School. I'm particularly concerned about the emails exchanged between Ms. Skaar and a former Parker teacher, Jennifer Salmon. In one instance, Ms. Skaar appears to be encouraging Ms. Salmon on a grievance matter involving our assistant principal, Mark Souza. In another instance, Ms. Skaar was questioning a Parker student's guardianship while offering her input into a scheduling decision that was made at Parker. I'm struggling to understand why a school committee member would be directly involved in an evaluation grievance at the building level, and why Ms. Skaar did not contact me directly if she was concerned about a student's legal guardian. It's evident that Ms. Salmon forwarded a variety of school-related emails to Ms. Skaar. Some of the emails sent by Ms. Salmon contain sensitive student information. I am curious if these emails were sent to all members of the committee or just to Mrs. Skaar. It does not seem appropriate that she or any other committee member would be involved in these type of school-based student and staff matters. Of additional concern is the derogatory language used to describe me in some of the email exchanges. It's not only unprofessional, but frankly, very disappointing coming from an elected official. I grew up in Chelmsford. I chose to raise my family in Chelmsford, and I'm proud to be a leader in this district. Having to talk to my family about why a member of the school committee would refer to me as a derogatory term that I don't feel comfortable sharing, in addition to making other comments about my character, my work ethic, was extremely difficult. I hope to never have to have that conversation with my family again. I'll let you know that I'm further concerned about the school community at Parker becoming aware of and accessing these emails because they paint me in a negative light and could potentially undermine the work that I've done for the 12 years I've been leading at Parker Middle School. I'm at a loss to understand why an elected official of this town is allowed to and chooses to undermine school leadership to the detriment of our district as a whole. As stated in the beginning of my letter, I'd like to know if all members of the committee or just Ms. Skaar were receiving student and staff-related emails from Ms. Salmon. Further, I'm interested and willing to meet because I would like to understand the responsibilities of the committee members, the responsibility of the school administrators, and how we can all be on the same page moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Blagg. I'm the Dean of Hawthorne House at Chelmsford High School. I also addressed a letter to the school committee on March 4th. I'd like to share it. I am writing to express my concerns regarding the recent Freedom of Information requests that yielded email communication involving school committee member Barbara Skaar and members of the executive board of the Chelmsford Federation of Teachers. In reading the emails, it became apparent that Ms. Skaar referenced me in a negative light regarding a proposal generated by a CHS teacher to alter the flex block offered at Chelmsford High School. This communication was made to Ms. Jennifer Salmon, the president of the CFT, considering concerns Ms. Salmon had over the proposed change to flex block. At one point, Ms. Skaar questions why Principal Murray is protecting Josh and that she would work on that. I'm struggling to understand why a member of the school committee would insert herself into such matters. In the 20 years that I've worked for the Chelmsford Public Schools, I've never had my integrity questioned by another administrator, supervisor, or school committee member until now. I can assure you that I'm in no need of protection and always work cooperatively with staff to best meet the needs of both students and staff. I have I do have several questions, but I'm deeply invested in this district and grew up here and work here. And I am concerned by the general purview of the school committee and the lines that are crossed. The tone of the email seemed to suggest a partnership existed between the teachers union and this school committee member. It had existed, and they seem to be working at least independently, if not in direct opposition of building administration.
Hello, Mark Souza, the Vice President of the Chelmsford Association, Administrators Association. The letter that we had sent. We, the Chelmsford Administrators Association, are writing to draw your attention to our concerns regarding some of the actions of school committee member Barbara Skaar. In recent weeks, members of our association have reached out to our board with concerns regarding Ms. Skaar's email, which were made public through various FOIA requests. Many of the public documents appear to suggest collusion between Mrs. Skaar and CFT President Jen Salmon, violations of bargain contracts and sharing of confidential information, and derogatory language used to describe administrators throughout the district. It is widely believed that many of Mrs. Skaar's behaviors are in direct violation of School Committee Policy 2104. There is a great divide within the Chelmsford Public School District. Mrs. Skaar's now public email chain has shed much light as to what has been transpiring. It is widely believed by the CAA that our district cannot move forward with this behavior from our elected officials and that actions must be taken. In a unanimous vote, the Chelmsford Administrative Association is requesting that the school committee open a formal investigation which may include the Massachusetts State Ethics Board and take all necessary actions regarding these unethical behaviors. Sincerely, the Chelmsford Administrative Association.
I welcome that investigation. I would hope in the future, when the CAA communicates with the school committee, that they use the CAA letterhead and not your public school letterhead. And also, if you could relay to the president of the CAA, it is illegal to carry on gambling in a Chelmsford public school letterhead.
Would you like to say anything else? All right. Thank you. We'll be moving ahead. After reviewing the email exchanges that were the subject of a public records request and brought to our attention, there appears to be 5 separate positions within school committee policies 2103 and 2104 that have been violated. I'm going to read the policies that pertain to the emails found in the records request. Number 1, school committee policy 2103 states that the obligations of an individual committee member are, but not limited to, the following: refer all suggestions and complaints to the superintendent and/or committee, and to abstain from individual counsel and action. The relevant portions of School Committee Policy 2104 states, a school committee member in his or her relations with his or her community should recognize that his or her basic function is to be policy making and not administrative. Accept the the second point here. Accept the office as a committee member as a means of unselfish service with no intent to quote unquote play politics in any sense of the word or to benefit personally from his or her committee activities. A school committee member in his or her relations with his or her school administration should recognize and support the administrative chain of command and refuse to act on complaints as an individual outside of the administration. Refer all complaints, verbal or written, to the administrative staff for solution and only discuss them at committee meetings if such solutions fail. Any complaints or problems should be confidential and not discussed with the community. There are 3 primary functions of the school committee: to set policy, to create budget, and to secure the position of superintendent. These emails reflect actions that are outside the scope of the school committee purview. This is unacceptable, and as a committee, the focus needs to be on our roles and responsibilities. This has been upsetting. I've heard from a number of our administrators this evening, and I've also heard input from committee members. Would anyone like to comment on that at this time? Input from committee members that they received communications?
Mr. Chairman, there are people in this audience today, and there are people that are listening and hopefully paying attention to what's taking place, which is really a pretty serious thing when your administrators and deans and principals come forward with concerns. I've heard from teachers, I've heard from parents, I've actually even heard from students about some of the emails. So the answer is yes. Excuse me?
It's hearsay, what you're saying.
Okay.
The answer is, as a school committee member, I've heard from parents, I've heard from teachers, I've heard from people in position about their concern about the emails directly. I've heard from students directly. So with that, that's all I have to say.
Anyone else want to speak?
I'm in the same situation. So I've heard many comments from parents across the district that have concerns not only with the emails, but with many other things. And I just think that now that this is out, hopefully we can move forward as a group again for the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's certainly something people talk about, which is unfortunate because there's so many good things going on in our schools, and I think, you know, as a board, we've accomplished some things going forward, you know, and looking towards the next year. So, as I said, John just said, you know, I hope we can resolve this, I hope we can move forward, and we can work together as a group for the next year or so.
I'd like to request that the other emails not be posted, that enough is enough, that this would not be taking place if those emails had not been posted. I have had so many parents over the years tell me, I'd like to talk to you, but I'm afraid of retaliation. This is what it looks like. I can't encourage them to come to me anymore.
Barbara, we work for the town. We work for the taxpayers.
I
we
work
do
for
what-
the parents. I work for the students.
Well, the parents are the taxpayers. The parents are the taxpayers. So,
I would also indicate that I've had a number of people contact me with concerns. My concern tonight is that the committee needs to move forward. We need to repair damage that's been done. I would suggest, I don't want to get into a fight about who's committed more to the town than any one of us, but looking around the room, we're all committed to the town and to the parents and to the kids. And to indicate that anybody on this committee isn't, I think is a little off base. So, Barbara, we want to move forward. I know that you've been upset with administration and with this committee. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure why. Could you suggest?
I don't know how to answer that. Everyone in this audience knows why, but you don't.
She's for the kids. All our kids.
Okay. As I said, I'm not going to get into a thing matching credentials because it's not productive. However, it has been very difficult for the committee to function with a lot of activity taking place outside of the committee. I've got 2 more years. You've got another year. We've got people here going to be around. What are we going to do differently?
I don't know.
We gotta work as a team, Barbara, that's what it comes down to.
I agree. And it seems to all come back to my relationship with Jennifer Salmon. Rob Russo is going to be the next union president. You want to talk about that, Dan?
Do I wanna talk about
Your relationship with Rob Russo?
Rob Russo I graduated with?
Yeah. How many years have you known Rob Russo?
What does that have to do with your issues?
Hold it, hold it, hold it.
What about you, Barbara?
What does it have to do with my?
Folks, what I asked about is, How can we move forward in a positive way? To start to line up attacks about things that haven't even happened isn't, in my mind, a step toward a positive direction. What can we do to continue? You know, one of the concerns that I have, and you've heard me state it repeatedly, this is a great town and a great school district. Ask anything about it, what our kids are accomplishing in our peer group in terms of being ranked by the state Department of Education. We're 1 in math, 1 in English, 2 points off of 1 in science. Our theater group scoring to the state finals this weekend. Our DECA club, one of the young men who's fantastic, got a $1,000 scholarship, and there were several that took first in a number of other places. And this is all getting lost, much to my frustration, in this constant bickering, for lack of a better term. I don't want to continue this. I don't think any of us want to. I just hope that people will open up and work together. The 5 of us work together with the administration instead of taking, I'm not directing this in any direction. It needs to go in a number of directions, instead of taking pot shots at each other. So if anyone would like to add a suggestion of how, as chair, may not be chair for that much longer, who knows what will happen, but I'm chair for a little bit longer. No.
No, this is, Mr. Chairman, the question, this is a business meeting, this was a question for the committee. That's why everyone up here, including Barbara, was given an opportunity to speak, but this isn't for a group of individuals in the audience. You're welcome to send emails or create formal invitations up here, or Doreen, excuse me. You're absolutely right. May I finish? Before being interrupted, I agree with you, respect.
Okay, let's go.
I do want to say one thing. Maybe we could, as a team, the MASC offers programs to support and create development programs to educate exactly what the committee's roles and responsibilities are. Maybe one thing productive is we could put together a program, invite the MASC to come over here and re-educate us. Everybody can get a re-education. Teachers go back all the time for recertification. I would suggest that this board has the same program. But I do want to state one thing. Mr. Thomas, you've been a member of our community representing teachers as a teacher, principals, deans, for over 50 years. I don't think there's anybody in this room that cares about children more than you, Mr. Thomas. Maybe as much, but
Thank you
not
very
more so.
much. I don't want to get into a thing of matching credentials, but I do want to emphasize that all of the people here took an action that few in the community are willing to take, and that's to run for elected office and to do what they think is the best job. And we, as a group, I think what we all really want to do, and I think maybe your suggestion of going to the state association is a good one, that we get together and out of the spotlight of the media and so forth, be honest with each other about concerns that we have and try to move on. Because we have so many good things going on, we cannot continue to get those things pushed to the side by this kind of negative action. So, any suggestions about how we go?
I think Mr. Lapoli suggested MASC does do a roles and
Yeah.
responsibilities workship. I mean, it's well received. I know it's done in a number of communities. So it
Yeah.
would certainly be something you could pursue.
Is that a motion that's needed to do something
Sure,
like that?
if you want.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that potentially on a yearly basis, that the school committee get together with the MASC because there are new people coming on the board very shortly, and I'm sure they're not going to know their roles and responsibilities as clearly as others. And let them come out to our town and educate us on roles, responsibilities, policies, what are the do's that you can and the don'ts that you can't. What lines are crossed that are not permitted. So I make a recommendation and a motion that we do that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anybody like to ask questions or comment?
No, I think that's where we have to head. We have to get on, we have to move on with this, and this is a good starting point.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstention or negative vote? No. Okay. I want to thank you for coming and expressing your views. This is difficult for everyone involved. I'm confident that we have the ability within the people that are sitting at this table to get past this, and I sincerely hope we do. Did you have anything?
I don't.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any negative vote or abstention? Unanimous. Thank you very much.